Hello, I'm Kamyar Rezaie, and this is Minds of Commercial Real Estate, the show that takes you behind the scenes of the dynamic world of commercial real estate. As a commercial broker to high-profile clientele in Southern California, I've grown a deep passion for the real estate industry. And in this show, we'll be exploring all things commercial real estate through conversations with some of my close friends, colleagues, clients, and partners who share my passion for the business. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Please remember to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and of course, leave comments with any questions or thoughts you may have about the show. I'd love to hear from you. Welcome. Today I'm here with Chereen Lopez from Escrow Tech, our amazing escrow officer.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Chereen. We've been, doing a lot of transactions over the years, over that decade.
A lot of years, yeah.
It's been amazing working with you and continue to work with you through our transactions.
Feeling is definitely mutual.
Obviously we can choose you on the refinance, but on the purchase, it depends if the seller is, known to you.
Absolutely, yeah. It's seller's choice, so we just have to go with that.
Sure. So escrow typically is a neutral company throughout the real estate transaction. Can you go a little bit further into that?
Yeah, we definitely are neutral. We have to remain neutral. We can't take sides with brokers or lenders or buyers or sellers. We represent and take instruction from our buyer and seller. People think that we take instruction from the agents and the lender, but we don't. Our job is to accept their money, hold their money, follow the terms of the agreement, make sure that we have everything done for them the way it was set up, and be neutral throughout the process.
We've done quite a bit of commercial deals together. And, we were speaking a little bit earlier, how we went through the pandemic, a lot of things slowed down. And then on the commercial side, with the low rates after the pandemic, a lot of investors and owner users are buying a lot of buildings. And what have you seen more like throughout 23 and 24 recently?
Yeah, 2023, we definitely saw a slowdown. A lot of that had to do, we believe, because of the rates obviously adjusting. But it definitely slowed down the market in commercial and residential, but primarily for these purposes, commercial. We, are looking at projections for this coming year, but at this time, the beginning of 2024, a little bit of movement, but we're still watching it. There's no clear indication exactly where we're going to go. But as I said, there are projections,
In terms, I want to go a little bit over throughout the whole escrow process on a refinance and or purchase, what's involved, how do you get involved from the beginning to the end, if you can explain that a little bit further.
Sure. For refinances, we work directly with the lender or the mortgage broker that's, sending us that transaction. We get our instructions from them. We get their loan docs from them. But then we work directly with the borrower on that. And it's a shorter transaction typically than a purchase. Very similar, though, in the information that we request and the documents that we generate. Purchase transactions, we have to work with the real estate agents for each side, the lender, any mortgage brokers that are involved, title company. But in both cases, we are the neutral party in the center. For purchases, we generate those legal documents that transfer the title. We order all of the documents that have to do with the liens against the property that's being sold. So we're sort of the center of the transaction in both cases. And I often explain to my clients that, especially my buyers and sellers, that, escrow is kind of like the center of a flower, right? And all the petals around it are the companies that we deal with because we have to interact with everyone. And so it's that centering area where the buyer and the seller or the borrower can feel safe enough to, say, hey, what's going on? Where are we? And then we try to find out.
Probably in 22, you did not have too many, escrows that fell out due to many reasons, but what about in 23 and recently, how has that been?
It has been an adjustment. 2022 was much better. Everything was going pretty well. The rates were, decent. As we got into 2023 and the rates started to adjust, we were having multiple offers, but then those started to fall back. And then things would come into escrow, sometimes come in and out of escrow 2 or 3 times on the sales side. We are finding that a lot of investors are doing multiple offers on different properties. and then, deciding on the final ones they're going to go with and canceling those other escrows, right? So there's been a lot of different types of negotiation. In terms of our purchase contracts, we're seeing multiple counteroffers, which we were not seeing in 2022. So we went from a seller-driven market to, I would not say it is a complete buyer's market. I would say that we are in this heavy negotiation market now where sellers are starting to acquiesce and realize they don't have complete control of where we are. But again, we're still moving within that whole, interaction of those two people, working on a deal.
How is your escrow's involvement with title on any particular transaction?
Well, we work with them from the beginning to the end. Everything that we obtain from the client that has to do with the transfer or with the payment of any liens against title, we have to work with the title company for that. They generate a preliminary title report for us. We go through those exceptions, contact the appropriate parties, get demands, do what we have to do, and then we have to provide those to them because they make the actual payoffs. We do the final accounting. So title insures the transaction. We provide them the documents with which to transfer the title to get it to that point. So it's a very tight relationship.
We've done multiple, I would say on the commercial side, SBA deals, investor, shopping center. And though they're a bit more complex, there's a lot more parties, a lot more involvement in the title and the escrow and calls. What would you, how would you explain the escrow on those a little bit further?
They're a little bit more, we have to be a little bit more customized in what we do. And I would say that, the company I work with, we're more of a boutique escrow in terms of being able to give them more personalized service. When they're bigger transactions like that, you really have to kind of spend an additional amount of time in that, one-on-one with them. Make sure that everybody's happy with what they're doing. They understand what they've got in front of them. And, that's our role. As far as the complexity of the deals, there's usually, whether they're being purchased by an LLC or a group of investors or a corporation, or even an individual within a commercial transaction, there's more paperwork, whether we have to deal with the city on different things. If it's an SBA loan, there's different types of loans, and sometimes we can have 4 sets of loan docs for one building. So it's very, very, bridge loans and things like that. It's very, very interesting to see how things come together. At the end of the day, with escrow, we're provided with it from the different entities, and then we go ahead and get things executed and back where they belong.
2024 obviously has started. I think there's a lot more confidence amongst investors, and we're seeing a lot more of the transactions. Are you seeing still more people, more of the escrows falling out, or are they getting closed? Is there better ratios of closing on the escrow side?
I think so. We did notice in January, and it's through mid-February, I would say, an increase in openings. They are not falling out as often. We are seeing more people. We're seeing more private investors coming in rather than, groups or corporations or things like that. So it's really interesting, especially like on multifamily and retail. That has definitely, we've seen that kind of tick up a bit. As far as industrial and office space, the projection is that it's supposed to get better through 2024. And I think a lot of that has to do with, companies wanting their people to come back to the office, right? So corporations and even, individuals are starting to look at, how do we want to structure our companies, and do we want these big office spaces for that? And that's what's happening. It's starting to come together. And then the multifamily residential with the retail, what's really interesting are the multi-use buildings where you have the retail on the bottom and the multifamily residential on the top, which has been a very big trend. We've seen it in the Valley, just even, LA County especially.
Doing an escrow transaction for a person who is a U.S. resident versus a foreign national, what is the difference involved for escrow?
Well, for us, it's very, very important that they have a tax ID if they're foreign. If they don't have one, then they can purchase, but selling is where they have a problem. So as long as you are a citizen, you don't have an issue with purchasing. It's when you are not, or you're coming into the country If you don't have a tax ID number, you can buy, but at the end of the day, you need to obtain one so that you can sell. And your residency requirements when you sell can determine how much has to be withheld, in terms of taxes and the IRS and all of that.
Any recommendations you have for individuals who could choose their own escrow companies, for sellers, for people who refinance? What's the most important aspect when they're choosing an escrow company? Obviously, working with somebody yourself is a big factor, the customer service level. Yeah. But in terms of the service itself, what are your recommendations?
I think that you have to assess your client and see their level of sophistication and what they're looking for. If you're dealing with newer investors, then I really highly suggest that you work with more of a specialized boutique escrow company where they can give them that personalized service, help them hold their hand sort of along the way. Not that they maybe need it, but it makes them feel better to know you're always there behind them in addition to their agent, right? We do see, investors that are going in and doing bigger, larger deals, say the 8 to 12 to $15 million range deals. A lot of those go with the title companies because of the way that they have the escrow and title divisions together for that commercial business. But we still do them, and we have a lot of clients like that. So for us, our whole niche is being customer service oriented and giving them a little bit more personal attention, which I think is very important, and it sets us apart at Escrow Technologies.
Well, that's why I've always used you for more than a decade, along with your assistant. I'll follow you wherever you go. We always had a good, business arrangements. It's always, smooth. Every transaction goes well. You take the hands of the client. You help them, even during the notary when they have a lot of questions, and you're always available.
Yeah, you have to be. That's the one thing. A lot of escrow people that I know, I've been in this business a very long time, and for some reason, somewhere along the line, people stopped wanting to be available after certain times. And I understand that we all have families, but at the end of the day, we've always, I have always in my team, I've had the same team for a long time. Right. My cell phones, my client has it, right. And at the end of the day, we need to be able to be available for people because they wake up and, call me on a Saturday morning. It's okay. We're there for you. It just depends. I think for every client, you have to identify what their need is, and you have to be there for them for that. Whether it's a first-time buyer or someone who has a large portfolio of real estate.
That's a good point there. So how is it dealing with a first-time buyer who's never dealt with an escrow company versus someone who's had multiple transactions?
Truthfully, those are my favorite clients. I love it. I love helping them. I love, watching them achieve that first investment, whether it's for their home or a business. I love, helping them understand why they're giving the information they're giving, but also understand the perks of it, what's going to happen after, and to begin their story. I tell all of my clients, I say, it doesn't matter how many properties they have or if they're just starting out, I said, this is your story. It's just a chapter in it. But boy, the story looks like it's going to be really great. Just keep writing. Right. And it's interesting, first-time home buyers, they're so, wide-eyed and they're afraid and or businesses, whatever they're buying, commercial or not. But at the end of the day, when we meet with them, it feels so good to see them start to come to ease, and sit there and go, oh, this is going to be great. Right. It's all going to be good. And we don't stop being there for them after close. We're always there for the client. Right. We worked together for years. A lot of my clients I've worked with, and I mean, beyond the source of the client, beyond working with you, retaining that relationship with the buyer or the seller has always been incredibly important to us. So they call us years after and say, oh, I got this. What do I do with it? Cool, send it to me. I'll let you know.
All right. Well, thank you, Chereen. Thank you for being on the show. It's great information, and look forward to our next transaction.
Yeah, sounds great.
Right.
Thanks, Kamyar.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share any questions or comments in the comments below, and follow us on social media. I look forward to seeing you next time.